Call Clegg. Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg takes your calls with Nick Ferrari at breakfast. 0845 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC 973. This is Call Clegg on London's biggest conversation. LBC 97.3.
Sylwia in Northolt.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Clegg and Mr. Ferrari.
Hello.
Thank you very much for taking my call.
Not at all.
I am a mother of a 8-year-old girl, unfortunate enough to have a very rare blood disease called aHUS. Most
Called
of the
what?
people affected by it,
Sylwia.
aHUS, it's atypical hemolytic uremic syndrome.
Right.
And most of the people affected by it are actually infants and children under the age of 5 who are suffering and dying.
In simple terms,
now,
again, Sylwia, it's Nick Ferrari here. For my listeners who are, again, not aware of this condition, can you briefly explain what this actually means? And how does that show itself?
Yeah, it's a genetic disorder, and just to explain it in simple terms, it leads to blood clots forming in a blood system.
But is she? I'm sorry to be so bad. Is she able to attend like a regular school, or does she need special education or transfusions, or what level of care does she require? Sorry, Sylwia.
Well, unfortunately, because it leads to damage to different organs, she ended up 5 years ago with kidney failure,
and
since then she's on dialysis.
I see. Okay, back to Mr. Clegg. Thanks, Sylwia. Yeah. Your question to Nick Clegg.
A new miracle cure now is available called eculizumab, and Jeremy Hunt won't make it available on NHS, despite the recommendation of its own rare disease experts. So my question consists of two parts. First of all, does Mr. Clegg feel comfortable with the fact that people, and in particular small children, are suffering and dying unnecessarily? And the second part of my question is really a plea of a desperate mother to save the child's life. Would you be kind enough to personally look into this and make urgent representations to the health secretary to make this drug available for our little patient?
Sure. Well, look, Sylwia, first, I can't, I just can't imagine the anguish I've got an 8-year-old boy myself, a child myself. It must be just heartbreaking for you. And I'm sure anyone who's listening can imagine that you're doing what any parent wants to do, which is just to find any cure, any solution, any help for your child. Forgive me, I haven't actually heard of this condition before, nor the medication, the drug that you've talked about. There are, as you know, it's very difficult, this area, incredibly difficult, this area. Where do you support new drugs? Where do you use taxpayers' money to support new drugs or not? Over recent years, as you may know, Sylwia, we've tried to make the system as objective and as fair as possible by asking a body called NICE, the National Institute for Clinical Excellence, to make judgments on when they think it's justifiable for drugs and new medications to be made available on the NHS. And on the whole, politicians, one Secretary of State for Health after the next, defers to those judgments rather than making it an arbitrary thing. So if I will, of course, Sylwia, I will look into this.
Just lastly, excuse me, Mr. Sylwia, just briefly, do you have any idea of the cost of this drug, either per month or per year? And has it been used, in America or Switzerland or something? I don't know.
Yes, it's being used in different countries, America, France and Italy. It is a very expensive drug. It costs £250,000 a year.
Right.
But by the way, talking about NICE, it's been actually investigated by the government's own experts, by advisory group for national specialized services.
And so it's your local, it's your local NHS trust that at the moment is saying the drug is not available, just so I absolutely nail this sophistically.
I think there might be a difference between the advisory group and NICE. But
all right. So if you can say...
But basically...
No, Sylwia, we're not...
Basically, the group.
Yeah. No, honestly, Sylwia, we're not letting you go. But I think, in fairness, the Deputy Prime Minister literally walked into this afresh. It's a condition that I hadn't heard of before. It's a drug that I don't think many people have heard of. I promise you, I give you my word as a parent, we will return to this story. And I sense that Nick Clegg, who's a father himself.
I will look into it, Sylwia, and then get back to you. But I need to look into it. I just haven't heard of the condition before.
I promise you we'll look. I'm not saying we can do anything, but I promise you we will get some kind of reaction. So, Sylwia, good luck with the little one. That's the most important thing.
LBC 97.3.
We're about halfway through Call Clegg, and normally each week this is where we pause and we find out, and perhaps the Deputy Prime Minister updates us on certain matters. I think on this occasion, actually, I'm going to update you, Mr. Clegg. You may recall called it, I think it's 3 weeks ago now, Sylwia from Northolt. She had has an 8-year-old daughter, Maya, who had a very rare condition and was being treated with what she called was a miracle drug that had been denied to sufferers. I recall you did some work and you found out that the drug was available. Really, it's just to update the listeners now. The little girl has had an operation last week in the hope of receiving a new kidney, and unfortunately, the transplant was not a success. The girl remains on dialysis. They're trying to support her recovery, so possibly the drug is not actually applicable at the moment. But listen, I know that on behalf of me and my team and the listeners, we wish Maya improved health and possibly a recovery, and let's hope we can get her to that position where the drug could do its job. Mr. Clegg, I'm just updating you.
No, well, I mean, thanks for that.
Okay.
You know, I think everybody who heard Sylwia, Maya's mum, ring in the first time was very sort of touched. It was kind of a very...
Yes, it was.
I think everybody sort of listened very intently, and I sort of, my heart goes out to Sylwia and Maya. So sorry to hear the operation hasn't gone well, and obviously very much hope she recovers.
We're pulling for your mum and for little Maya. Hope you get there.